No, she ain't right.
Thank you, guys. I want to tell you about a resolution draft that I got today from the mayor and Javanka Beckles.
Yeah.
They would like to give the opportunity to the city manager to do the right thing before April. But if not, I'm gonna tell you what the last line says of that resolution. It says, "We, the City Council, in order to restore public trust, ask that the Assistant City Manager, Human Resources Director, be removed from office." So tonight, we need to let the council know that that's what we need to happen. We need 4 votes to make that resolution right. So she wants to bring it in April if the city manager doesn't do the right thing. Let us talk to the council tonight about voting for the right thing for the residents and the employees of the City of Richmond.
That's right. All right. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
The report found that there was some things wrong, but he doesn't think there's grounds to fire them.
Well, let's talk about, when we talk about how much is enough or too much to steal. Since I'm a finance manager, $400 a month over 8 years is $38,000. But the law says she's supposed to pay back everything she caused the city to lose. So that means the 5 workers' salaries plus hers and the storage and the compensated time. So I have already done a conservative estimate of $600,000. That's too much. That's too much. And the law says treble damages. So that means she owes $1.8 million.
Pay it back.
The report says there were some things wrong. She has agreed to pay back the money for the car allowance, which you said is $38,000?
Yes.
She's agreed to do that, and there'll be some other discipline, but he wouldn't specify what. Is that enough for you?
No. $1.8 million.
She shouldn't have done that.
I have to enforce fiscal policy on my job. So he should enforce fiscal policy for the City of Richmond. She owes $1.8 million. We could settle at $600,000, but no less than that. That is felony. In the state of California with pension reform, Governor Brown says when you commit a felony in office, you lose your pension from the date of that felony. So we're going back 2008. No PERS since 2008.
That's right.
Then the city's whole.
We want her gone.
She's got to be fired.
City manager, he's not going to fire her.
Then the council has to do the right thing on behalf of the City of Richmond. And their resolution says that they're willing to do that.
That's just 2 members, though.
Just 2 members now. But tonight, when they hear from the public and they hear from the employees, hopefully there's 7 members. But this is the thing. To give her a pass on city policy is one thing. But to then let her violate state law, in California we all have to abide by state law. But when you retaliate against an employee and you get a pass, when you get an inch, that means you take a mile. So what's the next retaliatory action? What's the next retaliatory action against me and every other employee in the City of Richmond?
Right.
According to Lindsay, the report said that she did not bully people.
You can pay the report any way you want.
I know I was bullied. And the report did say I was retaliated against.
Emails were checked. That's retaliation.
She documented my phone, my conversations. She moved me around the city like I was a ping pong ball for the last 4 years. She wanted me to quit. She made it so it was hard for me to stay. But I'm here.
Did you request a transfer to the library?
I did request a transfer to the library. I did not request a transfer to the finance department, to the IT department. Engineering. Oh, engineering. The art center. Oh my God. I've had 4 different title changes back and forth where any given day people go, so what's your title this week? Additional duties, no additional compensation. I grew up here in Richmond. I earned 2 master's degrees trying to do a good job for the City of Richmond. Really? Oh. Now I'm stuck.
2 master's degrees. Let them know.
So when did all this start? I mean, I'm a guy that doesn't know anything about this. When did all this start?
I can say it started in October 2008 when she asked me to design the marketing materials for her Little Luxuries business on city time. It was a hobby I had for my church. She appreciated the hobby, and she decided that the proposition was I should design her logo, her marketing materials, her postcards, and I'm like, that's wrong in so many different ways. So I said no. And so 30 days later, things started to change. My title changed, my jobs changed. My director, since I was getting a second master's degree, said, well, I would like to promote you. Every promotion recommendation got shot down with vile words when it would become repeated back to me. So it was clear it was personal. And there was nothing I could do. So I was like, okay. But when things started to go wrong in the library, and I was going to be blamed for that, that's when I said, well, now I'm a dead man walking. She's going to fire me for the malfeasance of others. So I need to speak out. I need to speak out because if this is my last day, we're going to fix everything I can before my last day.
Ms. Plummer, bottom line, as you mentioned, you said this is a felony in the state of California.
It's a felony.
Yes.
And they said it's not a fireable offense. What goes through your mind? How is there's such this huge gap between the obvious facts?
What first goes through my mind is we have a team of city attorneys that can read the California law. So I'm confused as to why he didn't ask at least one of them what the California law was. Because I researched different penal codes and gave it to the FBI and the DA, and while I'm not a lawyer, I can read English, and it said imprisonment, it said treble damages, it said grand theft, it said misappropriation of funds. Now me and the district attorney's office during our interview discussed the laws that I actually set forward. And he said, you know, Ms. Plummer, you did put out there how much it was, because I said I was trying to show that there was a felony. He said misappropriation of funds, if it's $1, is illegal. So it doesn't matter what it was. But I said, okay, but it's $600,000. He said, okay, yeah, that's definitely illegal. So that's the point. It doesn't, the state law is clear. It wasn't in legalese.
So does it go through your mind to question how they could say it's not a fireable offense?
Yes. I mean, because when I read the report, to me, it talked about city policy. But what about state law? And some of those city policies are in place to prevent us from violating state law. And so now we just need the DA, the FBI, to explain to the city management what state law and federal law means.
And finally, what message do you think it sends to the people of Richmond that she keeps her job when these facts?
The message is clear. There is no crime in the city of Richmond if she gets to keep her job. And how could we let the public believe that this is acceptable? How can we let the community believe that this is how public workers do their tax dollars?
Stacie, when were you told about the resolution and by whom?
I was told about the resolution today, well, yesterday, by Javanka Beckles and the mayor.
In talking with the city manager, we talked about how corruption had been synonymous with Richmond for a number of years. And he said things are much better now because of Miss Knight, that she is cracking down and making sure things are tight. How do you respond to that?
Orwellian.
I respond to that by saying the city manager turns a blind eye. Now you have to understand his office is right down the hall from Miss Knight's. So if I saw all of that stuff in her office, so did he.
Yes.
So evidently everything that he sees, he just doesn't see when it comes to Miss Knight.
I am Pamela Hampton, City of Richmond employee for 13 years. I have experienced abuse from the Human Resources Department since Ms. Knight has taken her posts. I have been laid off in direct opposition to City Human Resources policy. I was not returned to work according to seniority in direct opposition to City Human Resources policy. I have had my personnel board hearing requests shoved under the carpet and hidden from the board. My emails have also been hacked, as I have been a target of Ms. Knight's for years. I have been watched on City Hall cameras, as there is a camera located above my head pointed directly at me daily. I have been placed on administrative leave due to hearsay. When I file my valid complaints to the city, they are not taken seriously by HR and are swept under the rug. However, when someone else frivolously files a hearsay complaint against me, believed to be solicited by the HR director and staff, I have been placed on leave, suspension, issued letters of reprimands, counseling memos, disciplinary action follows. I have been a victim of abuse, abusive, excessive, and vindictive disciplinary actions riddled by Ms. Knight. Bill Lindsay and Leslie Knight have continued to deny multiple pleas to accommodate my doctor's orders for a non-hostile work environment. When Ms. Knight isn't working on an attack against me, she forces her staff to do so in her place, deliberately creating a hostile working environment for me to work in by using the staff to ostracize me and treat me differently. All of this workplace abuse has impacted my family and my life. I am a native of the City of Richmond, born and raised. I enjoy where I live, where I work, and where I play. It is very important for me to raise my children around a safe environment, around people who are honest, not frivolous claims filed against you, things of that nature. And I just want justice.
And why have you been targeted by Leslie Knight?
It started back in 2006 because what happened was I was laid off, unjustly laid off. She never returned me back in the order.
So they violated the seniority.
Absolutely.
And what union are you a member of?
Local 1021 SEIU.
So they have a seniority contract, but they ignored the seniority contract.
Ignored it totally, which ended up resulting in my having to be compensated heavily.
So in other words, they violated the seniority contract, and the result is they had to compensate you, costing the city of Richmond money because they didn't follow the rules which they should have followed.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir. And I have been a target of hers ever since then.
Because you stood up.
I stood up. Yes. No promotions. I have been on promotional lists, never moved, never got a promotion here in the department that I'm at. I've asked for, repeated transfers. I've been off on stress leave 30 times as a result of all of the, ostracization, the harassment, the hostile working environment, the whole thing.
And this is costly for the public. I mean, for the worker, their family, stress and harassment. I mean, bullying on the job. Why do people have to be bullied on a job like this?
It's unfair. It's totally unfair, and it really makes your life completely miserable. And through prayer is what helps me. I am so serious. If I didn't have God.
So when you saw Stacie, how did you feel?
I felt like I had some company, really, and I felt like I had sisterhood. Before, I felt so all alone, and there was no way I could fight this thing by myself. So with her, I found a new friend, I found camaraderie, I found unity, and...
So this seems to be a general situation of bullying of public employees. Are harassed, they're blamed. You think tide is changing and public employees and the ones who are getting bullied are going to start to stand up and fight back?
I'm certainly hoping that is the case. Like I said, it certainly brought me forth, it brought her forth, and we're hoping that, because there are a lot of us out there that are being bullied here at the City of Richmond. A lot of people are afraid to come forth, whatever, fear of loss of job, things like that.
And terrorized.
Yes, they are. I was terrorized, and I had no help. What would I do? I didn't know what to do. I had no help. Nobody was listening. It was like I was so isolated. But I found out today that there are a lot of us that are being targeted by the HR director.
Okay, and what do you think should be done?
I think she should be terminated. Mrs. Knight should be terminated, and we should have a much more peaceful working environment like previous years that I can attest to were here before her arrival.
And I mean, if you had done what she did, and take money and that kind of thing, what would have happened to you?
I personally, she would have not hesitated to fire me on the spot, period. No questions asked, because I am one of her targets. So she would not have given me that opportunity. She probably would have superseded the Skelly hearing and just waived that, okay? So
it's a double standard.
It is definitely a double standard.
My name is Ray Drayer. I'm the Vice President of SEIU Local 1021, the City of Richmond chapter. I met Stacie back in November when I first got back to work off a work injury, and one of the things I was telling Stacie that we have to applaud her for her courage to come forward to meet the corruption that's in the City Hall.
Yes, that's right.
And we got to applaud her. Woo! That's one of the reasons why I came to support her. she was told that I was a fighter, and I've been in her corner ever since, and I want to make sure that we understand that if Stacie Plummer had done this, if Ray Drayer had done this, if any one of our members from 1021 had done this, we'd be on the street looking for work and have this felony conviction behind us. Because that's what would have happened. They would have prosecuted. I'm going to give you a little story. I don't know if it's in the city of Concord or San Leandro, but we just saw this in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago. A guy goes in, he's a manager, he manipulated the system. He got his kids enrolled in a after-school program for the spring or summer coming up. It's about $300 that he waived the fee. That city took the police officers into that guy's office and arrested him. That's what should have happened here in the city of Richmond. Look at the difference between two cities. This guy only got about $300. This woman, if our estimations are right, are over $600,000. $600,000. That's not chump change. And the Bill Lindsay said that he doesn't know that this rises to the level of termination. If this doesn't rise to the level of termination, what the hell does?
How much can you steal? He just rose.
I blame the City of Richmond, the City Council, Bill Lindsay, for allowing this to happen under his regime.
That's right.
He cannot sit here and tell me, as a member of the SEIU Local 1021, that the people that have been recently fired in our last 5 years here, if this doesn't meet the level of termination, then nobody in the city of Richmond should ever be terminated.
That's right.
Nobody.
That's right.
Whatsoever. And the fact that the second person in power doesn't even have a business license to operate in the city of Richmond that alone should be termination. Yep. That alone. Because she makes that people down in the building permits area, they got to get every dime they can from the people that come in here to work in the city, and yet she was allowed to use her office, storage space, the city's website, the telephone number, to allow that business to be done here in City Hall. And that's not termination. That's not a cause for termination. Then there's nobody in the city should ever be terminated again.
That's right.
Thank you.
Rage over a Bay Area city leader accused of misusing taxpayer money. The big question now is, will she keep her job? Good evening, I'm Ken Bastida.
And I'm Elizabeth Cook. Well, she's still on the job, but tonight Joe Vasquez says there's a new push to force her out.
Now, Liz, we heard from a lot of people who want her out. From everyone from the mayor to city workers to the whistleblower herself, who says that her boss retaliated against her, not just by shuffling her around to different jobs, but also by hacking into her email.
People are silenced because they're trying to do their job.
Angry that the city of Richmond's second in command hasn't been fired despite findings she abused her office, a group of demonstrators gathered outside of City Hall, among them the whistleblower who turned her boss in.
The message is clear. There is no crime in the city of Richmond if she gets to keep her job.
Leslie Knight is not just the assistant city manager, she's also the HR director. And yet an independent investigation concluded she was driving a city car while also taking a city stipend of $400 a month meant for a personal car. Also, the report says Knight ran her side business, making trinket inside city offices, and even used city subordinates to work for her. Stacie Plummer says when she refused to participate in the business, she became a victim of her boss's retaliation.
She documented my conversations. She moved me around the city like I was a ping pong ball for the last years.
You guys need to step up, take charge, get rid of her.
Inside tonight's city council meeting, the fireworks continued.
Let's get it settled and take action like you're supposed to. You're here to guard our money.
But the city manager says Knight's transgressions are not fireable offenses. In fact, she wasn't even suspended while the investigation was underway. The mayor and a city council member plan to introduce a resolution calling for the firing of the assistant city manager if she still has her job by the next council meeting next month.
And we've been organizing against bullying of public workers in California and in the Bay Area. And what we've discovered is actually the most conscientious workers, the workers that want to do their jobs, are the ones that are getting bullied these days.
because they try to take care of business, and they find out that there's malfeasance, they found out that there's problems, and they end up being harassed and bullied because they're trying to serve the public and do their job properly. And what we're saying here, and other people will speak, is that it's time for justice, that workers, public workers, have a right to do their job and not be bullied for doing their job. And that's what we're talking about. People have a right to do their job, and people are working very hard to do their jobs. Public workers are under a lot of stress. They're under a lot of pressure. They've cut back services, and they're taking the brunt of the anger in the public in this state, in this city, in this country, and they're not responsible for the conditions. And when they try to do their job, and they try to make sure that the public is being served and the tax dollars are being used properly, they get blamed. They get blamed, and that's what's happened here in Richmond with the case of Stacie Plummer. And what we're saying here is that this is not an isolated case. Other people besides Stacie have been bullied. Other public workers have been bullied in California and in Richmond and in Northern California. There's an epidemic actually of bullying, and a lot of these workers end up on sick leave. They end up on disability because of stress, just for trying to do their job. Now, we need humane, decent working conditions for public workers where people can do their job and they can provide services for the public. We're talking about providing services for the public so that the public is served. We don't want to see the waste of money. We don't want to see the waste of resources. We want to see public workers protected, them doing their job, and we're standing united today to say justice for Stacie Plummer, and we're saying that there has to be action taken to remove this bully who is bullying her and other workers in the city of Richmond. Enough is enough. We should not be using our tax dollars in Richmond or any place else for that matter for bullies.
My name is Kathleen Sullivan, and I'm City of Richmond's Human Relations Human Rights Commission. For our commission, we have not been a lame duck on this issue. We have taken definitive action when it came to the restoring our personnel board, which is in fact the watchdog for our employees here in the City of Richmond. But what I want to say is that we are standing united with our employees on fair practices, fair employment practices being the state of Richmond. This is, we have to have the same standards for our leadership here as we have for our employees. And right now, there's a big question about that, and our commission has our eye on this issue, and we're looking for justice.
Ferguson, I'm a retiree from the City of Richmond. Some of the history of what's going on here, from my perspective, is we had a massive layoff then in 2004, and we got down to bare bones. Then we brought in this new regime, and what happened is they put in a bunch of higher level managers because of personality and not merit. So what happened is the city lost a lot of money because they brought in people that they shouldn't have brought in just to have control, command structure of the unions and everything else. So now we have Leslie Knight and her folks have put people in place that are not necessarily the best people that should be there. Therefore, the total problems you see in the City of Richmond because of bad hiring decisions. That can be changed. Thank you very much.
My name is Charles Smith. I'm a retired East Bay Mud worker, and I was the chief steward for my union, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, for 12 years. During those 12 years, I had to represent a lot of workers. So I know what the procedures are, and if this kind of money had ever been stolen by an East Bay Mud worker and there was an investigation, the first thing they would do would to put that worker on a paid administrative leave. That was not done on this case. Yet they know for a fact that this woman was tampering with the files, she was intimidating workers, and she was stealing money, but they did not put her on paid administrative leave so that she could continue to influence workers that she was intimidating and make deals and God knows what else. This is absurd. This woman makes over $200,000, actually close to $300,000. I live in Richmond. There is only 2.2% of the people in Richmond that are making over $200,000, and she's one of them. This woman couldn't stop there with that kind of money when the average household in Richmond is around $50,000 a year, and that's probably with 2 people working. But that didn't stop her from going for more. That car, she knew what she was doing. She had the decal removed. She knew exactly what she was doing. She's guilty. The minute she said remove that decal, she's guilty. And we know for a fact that she's guilty of stealing the taxpayers of Richmond's money to the tune of $4,800 and probably more. That's only for 1 year. We know that she had workers doing her piecemeal work, putting together her trinkets that she could sell. That woman should be fired. And Bill Lindsay, if he's not willing to do it, he should be fired. This is the kind of corruption that we've seen at Richmond City Hall for years and years and years. And in 1994, that was the time when $35 million went south. Nobody got prosecuted.
2004.
I'm sorry? 2004. Sorry, 2004. Things got so bad because of the heavy corruption at City Hall that we almost went bankrupt. 200 SEIU workers got laid off, possibly more. We've done a turnaround since then. The citizens of Richmond have fought Chevron. They put a tax on Chevron. That was Measure T. They fought Chevron to clean up the air. They got rid of many of the corrupt individuals that sit on the city council. There's our money back. They fought Veolia. They fought Veolia's rate increases. They fought Veolia to do their job. Now we find out that corruption is back again, and it's right there in City Hall, right over there.
Here come the corruptors right here.
We cannot, as citizens of Richmond, of workers in Richmond, tolerate this abuse of power. This woman has to be fired. And if Bill Lindsay doesn't want to do it, we need to be out here demanding he gets fired too.
Shame on Bill! Shame on Bill!
You know, the history of Richmond has been, unfortunately, we've had too many examples of people in the past who have tried to take advantage of their positions in city government and take advantage of the workers of the city of Richmond, as well as the people of the city of Richmond. And the situation with Leslie Knight, the Human Resources Director, who's supposed to be setting the tone on how employees and government work together to provide services to the city of Richmond, it turns out is at the head of essentially an organized criminal enterprise. And what we've seen her do is manipulate workers and manipulate the city services, filling her office full of her private business, listing the address of City Hall and her office phone number as the contact number for her private business. This kind of corruption should not be tolerated, and we're calling on the city manager, Bill Lindsay, to immediately terminate Leslie Knight, because this cannot be tolerated. If we tolerate this kind of corruption, that means we can tolerate any kind of corruption. And unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen police officers accused of taking bribes from drug dealers. We've seen city council members, accused of assaulting people in the community and violating the code enforcement, or the code here for clean businesses. And this kind of corruption has to stop. And this is clear evidence where the city's own investigation revealed that she was violating city laws and literally has cost the city tens of thousands of dollars. Now, if any one of the other employees of the city of Richmond had even cost the city maybe a few hundreds of dollars, that person would be pounding the pavement right now. That person would not have their job. And we're demanding equality and fairness for all workers. And after all, Leslie Knight is our employee. That's right. So if Bill Lindsay does not take appropriate action, if Bill Lindsay does not get rid of Leslie Knight, then I think it's time for us to call for accountability of Bill Lindsay as well. And if he doesn't do his job, then we need to take him time out as well, and that's going to require the City Council.
I'm a public worker in the state of California, and I'm here to offer solidarity to workers that are bullied across the state in private and public industry. We find right now that what we're facing is a major crisis of the capitalist system. And when that happens, they have to impose an austerity on all of us. We had Schwarzenegger do it by starting the furloughs on the state workers in 2009. They were cutting the schools like crazy, firing people everywhere. The furloughs spread across to the counties and to the cities, and they took out workers all over the state and all over the country. They drove up our unemployment rate to a point where it takes two, three family members to keep a household going. Now, what are our politicians and our union leaderships doing to protect us? When I'm at work, people come up to me and say, you know, there's nepotism over here, or, you know, there's favoritism over here, or, you know, I don't know if they can say that to me, or when somebody tells me if I want to get a better job I have to go back to China, is that okay? No, that's not okay. And the only way to stop that is for us to unite, to build our organizations, and to take them back and make them more militant. Now, the way I see it is the problem with our trade unions is they are tied to the Democratic and in some cases to the Republican parties. And what they have us do is they have us run around every 4 years or every 2 years and do their political bidding for them. They have us take our union dues and pump them up into their campaigns like Prop 30 and promise us that they're going to turn it all around with a tax that's partially based at the rich, but a large part of Prop 30 is based at the working people who have to pay an extra percentage in regressive sales tax. And who did that? Our unions did that with our tax dollars. We need unions that actually organize the membership on a job site by job site basis, have solid steward programs that are interactive, that we work together in between our unions, not just in the city, but in the county and in the state, and we don't see separation, and we have conferences of these unions and these workers to expose all the bullying and to stand up whenever it happens. That's why we all came out here today. We all came out here today because we know that an injury to one is an injury to all. And one person stands up and they make us all brave. And maybe that person that talks to you behind the hallway is going to come out and stand up next and say, I'm not going to take it anymore. And that's what we need. More people to say, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to allow the capitalists to impose the austerity on us. We're going to take our organizations and turn them around. We're going to have independent working class politics by breaking our organizations from the capitalist, Democratic, and Republican parties and form our own working class party without any connection to the big 1%ers and 2%ers up there who think they own the world. Just because they have the money doesn't mean they own the world. So we have to have independent working class politics, strong unions, job site by job site, unit by unit organization, and it needs to be linked up at every job site.
She'll have her spies come back, and that's what they did to Stacie. They had people spying on her, and she actually got somebody in IT to open up her email account and give her access. That is a violation of the law right there. She was brought in for a reason, to be a hatchet person, to get rid of people that were, quote, corrupt. But when she's doing the same thing, then there is no justice. That's the problem here. Any one of our members out here would have the same issue going on, they would be fired. And that's the issue. You can't have a two-tiered system. We don't have a two-tiered retirement system. We have a two-tiered system in terms of how they manage their workers. And they like to divide and conquer in the city of Richmond. That's what Leslie Knight is good for.
She ain't right. Leslie Knight. She ain't right. Leslie Knight. She ain't right.